top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the Zoom today, Mrs. Cheryl Warner. She's the superintendent of Warrensburg-Latham Schools. And Mrs. Warner, you have a whole team of folks with you on the Zoom here this morning. First of all, thanks for making time for us. How are you today?
Yes, thank you, Seth. We're great this morning. We've got some wonderful spring weather, and I've got some of my favorite people on the air with me today. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, tell us about...
Looking forward to talking to you.
For sure. Well, we appreciate the time as always. Tell us about who we're talking to today and what we're talking about.
So today I've got a specialized trained team that actually teaches what we call teen mental health first aid to our high school students. Adrian Moody and Taylor Smith are counselors here at Warrensburg-Latham, primarily working with middle school and high school students. And then Mrs. Teen is one of our English teachers. So they just completed training in teen mental health first aid with our high school students. And I'm going to kind of tag back to last month's discussion. If you remember, Seth, we wrapped up and we were kind of talking about some of the impact of the book study that I had done with the staff on the anxious generation and how we're analyzing technology use with our students and the impact on their mental health and well-being. And the individuals I have with me today are key in a portion of this project. But if you recall, some of the glaring statistics from that study is that depression has doubled in teens since 2010, and the self-harm rates, especially for females, has nearly tripled. So this kind of had us putting in perspective, what are all of the things that the Warrensburg-Latham School District does to not only identify mental health concerns with our students, provide support, and provide support to parents as well. And we do a lot. I realized we had never put to paper everything that we do. And so we gathered together as a counseling and administrative team and ended up with literally a 6-page document of all of the initiatives and things that we put in place. And I'm so glad we spent the time to put it all in one place, because it's phenomenal for us to go back and look at how much has been accomplished, but it also helps us know, okay, what else do we need? Because it's unfortunately never enough, right? To highlight just a very few couple of things that we do that I'm very proud of. And then we'll kind of go into why I've got the team here. Every fall and spring, we do a mental health survey with our 4th through 12th graders. We have been doing this for years. It's not actually legally required until the 27-28 school year, but we gain tremendous insight from this. And we're actually this week pushing out our spring survey to our 4th through 12th graders. And some of the new questions on that survey are going to be based on their technology use and how it impacts their mental health. So we're very interested in the results.
Yeah.
We also
that's becoming a bigger topic. It feels like is how much technology is actually necessary in the school day. So I look forward to more conversation like that. I didn't mean to cut you off, Mrs. Warner. Forgive me.
No, well, we're gathering lots of data, so I could talk forever about that, Seth. I know you have limited time, but one of the other things that we've put in place is an anonymous tip line for our students or parents or any community member. That's extremely valuable to us. Our freshman transition program, you've talked with the staff about that program and how highly successful it is. And we've actually presented at the state level about that program. We also have a partnership with the ROE for what we consider an ALOP student liaison counselor this year. She's been a tremendous asset to us. And then we have a great collaborative relationship with Heritage, which kind of leads into this initiative of mental health first aid. So we teach mental health first aid to our 10th through 12th graders. And at this point, it's evolved enough. We're in year 4 of this, that our own staff are the specialized trainers. So years ago, I brought a whole team of staff to be trained on teen mental health first aid. And then some specialized staff took it to the next level to be actual trainers to teach our students. This is a skill-based training program for upperclassmen. It teaches them to recognize the signs of mental health challenges, not only in themselves, but also their peers. It's not counseling and it's not diagnosis, but it equips our students with support for their peers and for themselves, and who to go to when they know that help is needed. Because we know that a lot of times, especially when we're talking about teens, they're going to go to their peers before they go to their parents or their teachers or other adults in their life, right? So Mrs. Moody, Mrs. Smith, and Mrs. Teen are part of this specialized training team that do the teen mental health first aid instruction with our 10th through 12th graders. Like I said, they just finished a cycle of training. I thought it would be great to get their perspective on how vital it is, why they felt they wanted to be a part of this, what direct impact they see with the students, and so on.
Sure. Well, let's turn the conversation over to Mrs. Moody and have you tell us a little bit about mental health first aid, Mrs. Moody. From your perspective, what is this program? How has it benefited the students in Warrensburg-Latham schools?
Yes, I think it's benefited our students to just know, well, first of all, a main part of the program is just teaching them how to identify mental health challenges in themselves and others. And one thing that we really want to normalize is that whenever it's okay if we're not okay, but when we're not okay, we seek that help out, and we can, get better faster if we seek out that appropriate help. So that is a big piece where whether a student is dealing with a mental health challenge now, or a friend maybe be dealing with a mental health challenge, or in their life later on, right? Something comes up for them and they maybe recognize like, hey, this is a little bit more than my daily stress, right? This is ongoing a bit, and maybe I need to seek that appropriate help so that they can bounce back and get better. I know that a part of this program too is teaching students how to help a friend who's in crisis. That may be a situation where a student discloses that they're thinking about suicide. And so giving them an action plan, right? As far as like, how do I respond to that situation, and knowing that these are the steps that I follow in order to ultimately help my friend and show up for my friend and tag in that trusted adult. Other than just suicide, we do talk also just about, self-injury, if that's disclosed, experiencing like a traumatic event or bullying. And I think it equips our students to know what to do and how to handle those situations that I know that they encounter, a lot. 50% of mental illness begin by the age of 14, 75% by mid-20s. And so this is something that they will encounter, whether it's themselves or a friend, and knowing what to do and how to seek the appropriate help and ultimately get better faster.
Sure. Mrs. Smith, I know you're really on the front line working with students in Warrensburg-Latham. And, one of the things about this program is it feels like there's a bit of ownership in the, ownership stake from the student side of things. And, they are equipping themselves with these skills to help their friends when they encounter this. Do you mind speaking to that a little bit and what that looks like?
Yeah, so as Mrs. Moody and Mrs. Warner has shared, research shows that students and especially teens, adolescents, they want to talk to their friends. And so it is just a good way to equip our students with how and what to say, how to be a good listener, how to be a good friend, and who is a trusted adult, and how can you seek them out, and how do you get that help? Because just like your students can get like CPR training, we're not training them to be first responders or doctors, but we are training, and we're not training them to be counselors, but we're training them to be good friends, good humans, and how to help each other in these crises and challenges that they're facing, because we know that is happening.
What does that training look like? Where are they doing this? When are they doing this? Who's leading it? Do you mind walking through some of that?
Yeah, so we are training sophomores. 3 of the trainers are right here with you. We have Mrs. Moody, Mrs. Teen, and myself. We have a great partnership with Heritage, as we discussed. And we right now just have to utilize 1 mental health professional from Heritage to help train. We break up the sophomores into those 4 different classrooms, and we're with them for about 90 minutes. And they get the training. They recognize warning signs that a friend's developing a mental health challenge. We also look at a challenge versus a crisis, how to talk to a friend about mental health and how to seek help, when to get an adult involved, where to find appropriate resources and help. And then we do talk a lot about there's a 5 step action plan for teen mental health first aid and how to get help to your friend
Sure.
that's in need.
Yeah, very good. Very good. You mentioned this is something there you're doing with the sophomores. Why sophomores, and how about just their response to this and what they have come away with some of these lessons and things they learned?
Yeah, I think freshman is a huge transition period. So, we're giving freshmen a chance to like get acclimated to high school. And then juniors, they got a lot going on their year. They're doing ACT. We're getting through that. And so I think sophomores is just a very ideal age group to talk to. And like they're starting to enter those challenges that are happening, and they're very attentive. I think they're engaged, they're involved, they want to learn and talk about this stuff. We have an exit ticket after every session, and students are able to put in questions, concerns, and they can also speak with me or Mrs. Moody before the end of the day or within a couple days or the end of the week to get some of those questions answered if they're more comfortable with the one-on-one setting.
Sure. Very good. Ladies, I look at the clock. Let's take a break. Come back. I know, Mrs. Smith, you mentioned the partnership with Heritage. We'll talk about that. I want to get Mrs. Teen's perspective on being a teacher and also a part of this program as well. So we've got a lot more to talk about. We'll take a break and come back with more. Mrs. Cheryl Warner is the superintendent of Warrensburg-Latham Schools, and she's got a trio of ladies with us today. We're talking teen mental health in Warrensburg-Latham Schools. We'll continue the conversation next on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn and beans higher, wheat slightly lower. May corn up 2, 4.54. July corn up 2.5, 4.62 3/4. December new crop 4.82 3/4, up 3 1/4. May beans 11.75 up 9 3/4. July beans up a dime 11.91 3/4. November new crop 11.67 3/4, up a dime. May Chicago wheat 5.96 down a penny. May KC wheat down 1.5, 6.33 1/2. Maybe meal 3.25.30 up 20 cents. Maybe oil 71.26 up $1.63. Livestock trade April feeders 369.97 up $1.10. April live cattle up 62 cents, 250.22. May lean hogs 95.35 up $1.12. Energy market June Brent crude oil up 8 cents, 95.56. This is the RFD Radio Network.
Spring just has a way of putting a little more energy into everything. Brighter days, warmer air, and more reasons to get out and enjoy it. Your home should keep up with that. At Hickory Point Garden Homes, you'll have your own one-story duplex with bright open spaces, a private patio, and neighborhood walking paths just outside your door for that perfect stroll in the spring sunshine. You can spend less time managing your home and more time enjoying the warm spring days ahead. See what that feels like at Hickory Point Garden Homes in Forsyth, Illinois, and step into comfortable living for $55 and better.
Do you love the DeWitt County community? Are you the person who knows everyone in town and has a heart for the people who live here? Hart Media is looking for another sales account manager to join our team. We're hunting for a fun, outgoing person who wants to be the face of our media products. Help local businesses share their stories through radio and digital media. If you've got a drive to succeed and a passion for people, submit your resume. Connect at heartmg.com. Work where your ideas actually matter. Connect at heartmg.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Again, my guests on the Zoom today, Mrs. Cheryl Warner, superintendent of Warrensburg-Latham Schools, and a trio of her staff talking teen mental health in Warrensburg-Latham. And I know, Stephanie Teen, you are a teacher in the district, and I want to get your perspective on being a part of this program and being a teacher, not necessarily a counselor dedicated to moving this program forward. Talk to me about how you got involved, Mrs. Teen.
It was kind of a combination of factors. This year's sophomore class is bigger than a lot of our previous classes. And so usually in the past, we've been able to do 3 rooms of students. This year, because of numbers, we needed a 4th trainer. We had another staff member that had previously been trained, and he is unfortunately leaving our district at the end of the year. So we're going to lose him as a trainer. So there was a lot of factors that went into it. And it's also something that I kind of was willing to do. When my principal approached me about getting trained, it was an absolute yes. It wasn't something I had to think about. And then there was I believe Ms. Warner mentioned, a very intensive training. It was 3 full days. We had to learn the curriculum. We had to teach part of the curriculum. We got graded on our teaching of the curriculum in order to get certified, to be able to actually present the information to the students. And I think it's helpful too for them to see that it's not just something that's getting pushed out. As much as Miss Moody and Miss Smith do, and they do a great job, sometimes the kids kind of compartmentalize that, like, they deal with this stuff and the classroom is academic. And so I think seeing a classroom teacher that they see every day for a class, and I teach a required class, so they have English every year, seeing that we are also knowledgeable about the things that they're experiencing and that we can be a resource for them besides just Miss Moody and Miss Smith, I think for a lot of the kids is really helpful, because we do, like they mentioned, we really give them a lot of resources on who to reach out to and adults to get help from. And it's kind of a nice reminder that it doesn't have to be Miss Moody and Miss Smith. They're great resources, but there's lots of adults that care about them and want them to be happy and healthy.
Totally. Great point. A really well-made point. You know, a lot of students have their favorite teacher, but, you know, if they had to say, could you go to that teacher and, you know, ask them about the things going on in your life? I don't know that all of them would say they feel that way. They just feel like they're a great presence in the classroom. They learn a lot. They have a lot of fun. But again, when it comes time to approaching them, maybe that's not something they think about when these times come. So, yeah. Very good. Yeah. I'll tell you what, Mrs. Moody and Mrs. Smith, if it's okay. By the way, Mrs. Dean, I don't want to overlook your story. Was there anything about your journey into this program you wanted to touch on that I didn't ask about?
Not necessarily me specifically. I mentioned the training, but I did want to note, because Miss Moody shared it, and we meant to mention it earlier, that we, over the last 4 years, we do 3 90-minute sessions. And if the students, sorry, our bells are ringing. That's really loud. If the students,
3 superintendents on, it's okay.
If the students participate in all 3 of the 90-minute sessions, they're considered trained, they're certified, they can put it on resumes, they can use it on applications. And in the last 4 years, we have had 314 students be fully trained. Wow. And like Ms. Smith mentioned, we started with the upperclassmen, and then now, because all our juniors and seniors have been trained, we've kind of been able to filter back to sophomores, and that's kind of our sweet spot. We just do the sophomores every year, and it's nice because most of the students in our building now have had the training and the resources. For sure. Mrs. Moody, Mrs. Smith, I'll let one of you take the partnership with Heritage, how that has been beneficial, what that looks like.
Yes, so Heritage has been, a partnership with us. They always have school-based counselors that a lot of times will push into the schools and support students. And it's a great resource just if, getting to appointments is kind of difficult. So that built-in support there where somebody can come. But once we had, they provide the youth mental health first aid training that a lot of our staff have participated in. And they also have teen mental health first aid training as trainers as well that have helped support us whenever we've needed additional instructors. And we're just very grateful for them and their partnership because, it just would have been more challenging, right, to not have an additional trainer to be able to do this program.
Yeah, very good. Very good. I want to, if it's okay, wrap up Mrs. Warner, Miss Moody, Miss Smith, Miss Teen with this program kind of mirrors what, folks are listening to this in Clinton today and they think, gosh, that sounds a lot like what we've got going on here. That's because it should. Who wants to talk about how the backstory on how maybe Clinton helped in putting this program together?
Yeah, I can take that, Seth. So years ago, Mrs. Moody and I worked in a prior school district together. I was the high school principal and she was the counselor. And this is something we really had wanted to get into our school district, but we were facing all sorts of logistic issues. And it is a national skill-based program. So it is well known, but we were really struggling with how do we put these obstacles aside and be able to bring this to our students because it was so vital. And so I did consult with Kurt Nettles at Clinton. I saw a presentation that he and some of his high school staff had put together at the school board conference. And then I was at the time making my transition to come to Warrensburg-Latham, and Mrs. Moody eventually made it here too. And we realized once we were working with each other here, we really didn't have as many obstacles and we could move forward and make this happen. And we were able to use Clinton as a resource along with Heritage to make the steps needed to occur.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Very nice. About 90 seconds here, ladies. What did I not talk about today with this program we need to put out there?
I just love how it's evolved over time. The fact that 314 of our students at this point are certified in teen mental health first aid is huge. I also want to put a plug into where this leads to next year. We'll continue to strengthen this program, but in terms of additional mental health supports, we're looking at, having a comfort dog join our staff next year. That's a little specialty add-on in relation to Mrs. Moody. This is also a project her and I have been working on for quite some time.
That's awesome.
We're also looking at fine-tuning some of the screening software that you use at schools. Seth, you've probably talked about this with other superintendents. We use software screening services to help us be aware of anything that's occurring with students based on their search history, right? Their Chromebook use and things that are occurring during the school day. We are adding another layer of support to our screening software that specializes and really fine tunes into self-harm, suicide, and violent acts. So it's a whole nother level of screening that allows us to know things faster, quicker, respond and support.
Yeah, sure.
And the other thing that we've talked about is we're really analyzing our technology policies right now with students. And we're asking ourselves questions about, are we going to be changing the access that our students have to Chromebooks and cell phones next year, gathering data now.
You mentioned that at the top. Yeah, very good. Ladies, great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, that's the counselors from Warrensburg-Latham Schools, our guest on the Zoom here for this morning. Morning show streams too, Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance. Network News is now.
WHOW.